Okay.
I was like, keep it in check.
Welcome, everyone. This is the 27th day of July, 2020. First is a roll call. And Ms.
Yes.
Golden is ready.
Mayor Curley,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks,
Here.
Alderperson Berry,
Present here.
Blackwell. Here. Dunn. Here. Noes.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
7 present.
Well, we have a quorum, so we will proceed. We're very pleased that Reverend Tom Murdoch is with us this evening. We'll ask that he lead us in an invocation, and then he doesn't mind. We're going to ask, we've got several scouts with us this evening, including Jackson Banks, Drew Banks, Luke Ellis, John Ellis, Isaac Pratt, and Jonathan Ralston. And we'll ask them to lead us in the pledge. So ask everyone to please stand and remain standing for the pledge. Reverend Murdoch.
Holy God, you always have promised to walk beside us, to be with us. And in this very anxious times that we are facing, we really need that. This week we especially ask prayers for our teachers, administrators, staff, students, and their families as they prepare to begin school again, knowing that it is filled with lots of unknowns and lots of anxiety. So we pray for peace this week. We pray for their health. We pray for our community, that together we might work to at least try to bring this under control. We ask you, O God, to give us the wisdom we need together. As our mayor and aldermen, as they reason together, as they make plans, we ask for your blessing. Be with them, we ask, this day and each day, as they lead this community together. We pray always in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Murdoch, and thanks to the young men that were here tonight leading us in the pledge. This is not just a random visit by 5 scouts. They're here earning their citizenship in the community badge. So appreciate you being here tonight. Okay, I'm not aware of any commendations, certificates, proclamations, awards, or special presentations. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on an item not later on the agenda? Seeing none, we will proceed. We're ready for board reports. Mr. Mathis, please, sir.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Alderman Berry, please, sir.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Blackwell.
Oh, Lordy. So I have a report, so bear with me because there's been a lot going on. Start with the Board of Education. I'm the liaison to that. So just as a heads up, I think everybody knows school's starting this week. So just put your thoughts and prayers out there for our students, our teachers, our staff. I know they're going through a lot. Our teachers are already out there working. So just asking for everybody to put their, good juju out there for them. And for people to check your emails. Everybody who has, all of us with kids at school, check your emails because that's a lot of the way our teachers are communicating with us right now. Planning Commission. You'll see on the agenda tonight one of the zonings that we talked about in our Planning Commission and the recommendation that came from our Planning Commission itself. So take a look at that. I think we did recommend that we sent an unfavorable recommendation to us. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. The Diversity Council, we are moving forward with putting together a bylaws committee that will put together the bylaws so that we can actually start to form the actual council itself. Our first meeting, for most of you who know, was an actual open meeting for the citizens to come and tell us what their thoughts were. So I wanted to make sure that I'll keep you guys abreast of that. The Domestic Violence Task Force met for the first time since I think March, which was a great meeting. I want to say a big thank you to the DA, our DA, Craig Northcott, for giving us some a couple cases that we can start to actually evaluate so we can see where there are moments within our community that intervention can happen before we get to this place. So very excited to move forward with that. Lots of great information. I have quite a few action items for myself after that. And there's two things. I know many of you know that I've been fundraising to do updates to Jefferson Street Park. As you look at me, knowing what I'm going to say. As of now, I've raised over $3,100. I'm hoping, and I'm putting this ask for us to add to the next meeting agenda to see. I anticipate that I'll be at that point at about $7,000 to $8,000 fundraise. The thing with that is that there are a couple larger donors who want to hear from the city board that we are essentially good with doing the work. So I'm hoping that we can add to the next meeting's agenda to either match any extra funding that needs to happen to it from the $450,000 from the state, and most importantly, so that I can then go to the donors and say, hey, it's going to happen. They have it actually in our hand. So that's something I wanted to make sure we have on the next agenda. Also, I think we've all heard about the feral cat population here in Tullahoma. I'm hoping that we can also add to today's agenda for the Coffee County Humane Society to be added as a possible nonprofit to receive $2,500 that would be coming from that same $450,000 bucket that the state has, I think, already sent us a check for. And I'm hoping we can add that. I think I have to ask.
Is that your motion?
Can I make the motion on?
Sure you can. You have to move to amend the agenda to include that item.
Okay, I'd like to move to amend the agenda to include the item to allocate $2,500 to the Humane Society.
Second.
Thank you.
So, second, so the only thing we're doing now is amending the agenda. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adding this item at the appropriate place on the agenda, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We'll add it at the very end here.
Thank you. And then my last thing for my board report is, so I'm a new mom, and I am thankfully done with the nursing journey. And I just want to remind all these mothers that are out there right now that there is a breastfeeding support group in Coffee County. You can reach out to me on my Alderman page, and I can try to get you in touch with them. But I just want to say a big, big thank you to them for helping me get through the past 10 and a half months. So, yes, that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Blackwell. Dr. Blaze.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sort of have like a flashback while I'm following Jackie.
Sorry I talk so much.
But that's okay. Next time you'll have to do a poem and you'll be all set.
Oh, I
Well,
don't.
I'm seeing 5 items here yourself.
You're right. I'm going to be like Jackie
So-
too.
so
Everybody
what
needs to
is
be
your
like
last
Jackie. So, thank you. Since we met last 2 weeks ago, I had a Duck River meeting. We have plenty of water in the reservoir. So, drink a lot of water, water your lawn. We have water and we want to sell water. Like to commend everybody that's wearing masks in here today. I would like to encourage people to wear masks while they're out, since we have more cases now than we've had in quite a while. We need to blunt the curve again if we can. The virus does not discriminate, so I encourage you to wear your mask. You might be helping somebody. Also, speaking to the spay-neuter item that has been brought to our attention, sometimes on social media some of these things come up. I don't respond a lot on social media because some people are very passionate, and not that we are not in tune to their desires. Some of these things we've known about for a long time, so maybe we can address those. Also like to commend Tim Stubblefield for his many years of service as a fireman in the great city of Tullahoma. He's done a great job. He will be missed. He's got 30, how many years? 30 plus? A bunch. So if you see Tim around, thank him for his service. One last couple of things. If you have not filled out your census form, we would encourage you to do that. That's how we get money. That's how we determine, a lot of things from the federal government. Last but not least, please shop Tullahoma. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. So Judge Connolly just entered the room. Should we stand? I don't know.
I think we have to
Very
kiss.
clever on the way you held your words and such stuff, so I couldn't respond, but I'm forced to respond, Mr. Mayor. Honored to see you and the board.
Thank you. So we don't need to stand. Okay. So speaking of your last item about shopping Tullahoma, I hope all of you saw the email that we sent out that Ms. Wilson prepared that showed the retail sales in May of 2020 at an incredible 17% over May of 19. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I mean, I've never seen a percentage like that. So thanks to everybody in Tullahoma and our neighbors.
I think mainly Jimmy. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jimmy, for real.
There you go. Ms. Dillon.
Yeah, well, I don't have much to say today, other than we're looking at 100 years of women's right to vote, so I'm wearing a pin to commemorate that, but that's pretty exciting. I had a friend of mine who's also a woman. She voted for the very first time today, so I'm excited about it.
Neat. Yeah. Good. Mr. Knowles, please, sir.
Yes. Alderman Blackwell has already alluded to our actions with the Planning Commission last week, an action item on the agenda tonight. Also last week, we had an in-person board, airport board meeting that went very well and smooth. With regard to the feral cat situation in spay and neuter, I'll tell you, it is a problem. I attest to it being a problem to the extent that last year, I had a cat visit my house, and I didn't want to shoo the cat away or drop it somewhere else. So I went looking for some way to take care of a stray cat. No one would take it. There's no way to give it away. There's no one to take it to. I finally found a lady, I believe her name was Brenda, up in northern Coffee County, who said that if I would take the cat to the vet, have it fixed, all its shots cleaned and everything, that she would take it. I did. It cost me $425 to give that cat away. True story.
So what are you going to do the next time a cat shows up at your house? You learned your lesson. Maybe thanks to Ms. Blackwell and Ms. Lamb and others in the community, maybe we'll be making some progress tonight.
Well, I've spoken with Ms. Lamb on a number of occasions regarding this issue. It's not a new issue, it's an old issue, and I've raised it in this chamber before. We have an animal shelter, but nothing for cats.
Sure. So, thanks, everyone. Ms. Moody, do you have on your list to mention tonight the general obligation refunding bonds and the impact, the fiscal impact that's having?
I will be happy to, or you can.
Well, I mean, if you've got it on your list, that's fine. I mean, it's just incredibly good news. I want to make sure the community knows that. Do you or Ms. Wilson have that information that you can, okay, at the appropriate time, I'll call on you. And here's some information if you need that, about what Ms. Wilson's initiative did. Okay, ready for City Attorney's report.
Your Honor, I have no report tonight, but I will state that Ms. Moody and I are attempting to set up an executive session for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in the next few weeks to go over a number of items that are pending. Rather than boring with that tonight, we'll take them up and nothing's real pressing.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Moody.
I will share several things with you. First, I'll start with the bond refinancing that you mentioned and thank our Finance Director, Sue Wilson, again for her leadership in recommending this refinancing. We also had support from Ashley McAnulty. You may remember he spoke at a recent board meeting and he's our financial advisor with Stevens. We had a very competitive refinancing on about $10 million in general obligation bonds. These bonds were related to school debt, but we're very competitive in our refunding. I think we had maybe 11 registered and ultimately received 8 bids. These bonds were currently averaging between 3.5% and 4% interest. After this refinancing, we'll be at interest cost below 1%, approximately 0.85%.
Wow.
and its estimated savings over the remaining years of the repayment is $1.5 million. Yeah, so very good. Thank you. And I think that encouraged us. We're taking a look at the rest of our portfolio and seeing if there's any other debt that can be refinanced for those rates. Also, I'll share with you today, Chief Williams and I met with Representative Bricken. Mostly he was very interested in meeting our new police chief, but we also had an opportunity to talk about some legislative matters and how it may relate to the police department. Also, he brought some good news. The state government has announced an additional $115 million for local governments to respond to COVID-19. And I've registered for a virtual town hall that's required later this week that will tell us about what types of expenditures are eligible and how to apply for the funding and that kind of thing. So we'll be looking into that. We did receive our local government support grant, the $450,000 that Alderman Blackwell mentioned. So we're grateful for that, and we'll be looking to you for some leadership on how we spend those funds. Also, notice that there is a new law that has made it permanent that businesses can sell beer through online curbside pickup. So you'll remember during this virus, some temporary measures were put in place for takeout. That one is now permanent, so as the beer board, I just wanted to make you aware of that. And it did say that businesses have to sell beer from their inventory located at their permitted location. They cannot pull inventory from another retailer or location. And any employee that's bringing beer to customers who use curbside pickup, they will have to be in a parking lot, and employees are expected to still confirm that the person is at least 21 years old. So, also, there's going to be 2 tax-free weekends coming up. July 31st through August 2nd is the back-to-school tax-free weekend for school clothes and school supplies. And then August 7th through 9th, they're doing a tax-free weekend on all restaurant sales. So I just want to make the public aware.
Did you say August 9?
7th through 9th. We also got good news in the form of our Coffee County unemployment rates. The last numbers that came in, they're showing some improvement. So where last month they were at 13.8%, we're now at 10.5%. So we're seeing it come back up pretty quickly. I think all of you are aware, and if you haven't seen it in person, you've probably seen it on social media, but we have a new mural, the Wisteria Maiden, that's been completed in downtown Tullahoma on Wall Street Alley. You can kind of catch a quick glimpse of it as you're right before you pass Rogers Insurance on Jackson Street. But visit Wall Street Alley if you haven't had a chance to see it. It's pretty remarkable. And then last, I would like to ask Chief Shasteen to come up and talk about a new program that he's initiated.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Board. I would like to allude to Deputy Chief Stubblefield's retirement. We will have an event Friday from 11 to 1, Fire Station number 1 at 613 South Jackson Street. There will be comments at noon. I hope the mayor and anyone else would be able to attend and certainly take a shot at Tim. I mean, make some comments about Tim. He's got a great sense of humor, so it may be our opportunity to kind of get him back a little bit. So you probably don't want to miss that. We would ask for everybody to wear facial protection because we expect a big crowd and you'll be inside our house, so to speak. So we just ask that everybody please honor that and come out. On another note, I'd like to ask the board, are you familiar with a challenge coin? Has anyone ever received a challenge coin from anyone? Okay, a lot of times in the military, at military bases or fire departments and police departments, they'll have a challenge coin that either commemorates something specific, like we got from John Glass with the air show, or they will commemorate the department itself and award those for special recognition for certain acts of bravery or whatever it might be. So about 6 months ago, some of the firefighters came to me after receiving some coins from other departments and asked if we could start trying to put together a coin program. So, of course, any good person forms a committee. And so we got a few people off each shift, and they got together and started working on a design. We have an artist on staff, Jason Dyson, that is a very good artist, and he has done things for us before. So he put together some samples. We passed it around the station, all three shifts, the management, everybody looked at it, and we came up with a design. So we have accomplished that part of it, and we were able to go out and get some bids to purchase these coins. We were able to get a good qualified bidder and provided us with coins. And we have got a program put together now. It officially went into effect July the 1st of 2020. If you don't mind, I'd like to read a small proclamation, and then we'll go from there. Okay, as Winston comes around, he will be handing out the first issued coins. And they are specific to each one of you. And we'll let you get those in your hands if you don't mind, if you want to take the coin out of the package and look at it so you can see both sides clearly. These are each individually numbered for authenticity. So when you get one, your certificate will show the number, so we know you didn't just swipe it from somebody else and start bragging that you've got one. It has to be technically issued to you, okay? So this is the Tullahoma Fire Department Challenge Coin. The intent of the Challenge Coin program is to recognize and honor those individuals who exemplify common values. These core concepts, community, dedication, tradition, and sacrifice, are the foundation of the Tullahoma Fire Department. Hence, these words are prominently displayed. Community, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of showing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Dedication, the quality of being committed to a task for purpose. Tradition, long-established customs or beliefs that have been passed on. And finally, sacrifice, an act of giving up something of value for the sake of something else regarded as more important. This coin is an emblem of the Tullahoma Fire Department, and we trust all of those who possess will constantly be reminded of these values. So we decided to honor this group with the first coins because y'all provide support for the fire department, and we certainly couldn't do our job without the community and this group. So I just appreciate all of you, and these coins don't come from me. They come from the department, and they're yours to keep. And then this proclamation that we made will hang at the fire station. And now we're tasked with going and giving the firefighters that have done things, or whoever else in the community that might come in and do something spectacular, we'll honor those. So I appreciate your time, and hope you're proud of those. Carry them with you.
Yes, very nice, very, very nice. Yeah, we could do our work if it weren't for you as well. The community is a better place because of you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass that along to the men and women. Thank you very much.
Ms. Moody, anything else? Okay, good. Thank you. Excellent report. So we have 6 items on the consent agenda. Item number 20-59, minutes of the July 13th, 2020 regular meeting. 20-60, set a public hearing on a request to rezone a 28.4 acre parcel at 1800 East Lincoln Street from R2 medium density residential district to R3 high density residential district for Monday, August 10th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. 20-61, approve the reappointments of Kathy Rose and Mary Beth Harton to the Lanham Library Board Committee for 3-year terms expiring June 30th, 2023. Item number 20-62, approve the purchase of 2 trucks for the Parks and Recreation Department in the total amount of $63,000 $500 from state contract. Item number 5, 20-63, announce a vacancy on the Tullahoma Utilities Authority Board for a 5-year term expiring on August 30th, 2020. Item number 20-64, approve and authorize disposal of surplus items. Is there a motion to approve the
So
consent
moved.
agenda as presented? On the motion by Mr. Matthews,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Blackwell. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have no old business, is that correct, Ms. Moody?
Correct.
So we have several items of new business. The first is agenda item 20-65, approve and authorize the mayor to sign an amendment to the lease agreement with South Jackson Civic Association to continue use of the Civic Center through 2040. Is there a motion to approve item number 20-65 for discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
What?
Okay, we had a chorus of motions. I heard Mr. Noes, and then I heard a second by Mr. Barrett. All right, so let me read part of that so everybody is clear on what we are doing. Okay, for many years, the City of Tullahoma and South Jackson Civic Association have had a strong partnership that includes the shared use of the site of Tullahoma's original town square and the reuse of Tullahoma's first public school built in 1886. South Jackson Civic Center opened in January 1979 following a community-led effort to preserve the site and has continuously operated as a performing arts and cultural center for the past 40 years. The South Jackson Civic Association has shared their intentions to begin significant renovations and repairs to the Civic Center, including repairs to soffits, eaves, and renovation of restroom facilities. In order to complete such repairs, the association received a $150,000 low-interest loan from the city, approved by the board on June 8, 2020. In light of the significant investments, the association additionally request an extension of their lease for a full 20 years. The current lease was signed in January 2006 and has 6 years remaining. Upon our approval, an amended lease can be prepared by the city attorney to extend the lease through 2040 and incorporate a statement that the leaseor, city, will be responsible for maintenance and repairs of the roof. So the current lease does not include responsibility for repairs, maintenance, upkeep, or payment for any utilities, nor does it request any lease payments from the association. The city's expenses include annual appropriations to South Jackson Civic Association, property insurance on the facility, some utility expenses, including the electricity and maintenance of all exterior lights and capital improvements. I've requested the board's consideration of including maintenance of the roof of the facility as a leaseor city responsibility and extension of the lease. At this time, the condition and age of the roof are unknown, and therefore an estimate of fiscal impact cannot be provided. Oh, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ready to vote?
I have one thing I want to bring up. You know, this is a city-owned property, correct?
Yes.
And do we know how old the roof is on that building, Greg?
Mr. Gressel is here.
Yeah, it is about 20 to 25 years. We do regular inspections of that, and we've had a lot of rain here lately to be able to do that in the early spring and so we have we've walked underneath the roof, we've walked on top of the roof to check for any issues, but there are none seen. We did do some repairs in 2016, but nothing has needed to be done in the last 2 years.
You know, my only qualm is extending at least 20 more years and then having a roof over our head, or so to speak, no pun intended, something overhead, we have no idea what the physical impact would be. So, I could have an idea. Do you know what you had to pay the last time you had a roof fixed?
I think it was about 80,000.
Okay.
80,000.
So I would say probably the next 10 years, that roof will have to be replaced. Or it could be 5, you know. I don't know. I know there, when I was in school there, the roof leaked a little bit, but that was back, I think, might have been before Noah built his boat, but it's been a while. So, and that's just the thing we need to keep in mind, that we're gonna take on this and we don't really know exactly how much a roof will be. Probably doesn't really matter because it's our property anyway. So, that's just a question I had. So.
Other discussion?
Is something maybe, and maybe this is for Ms. Moody, can we make sure that we're kind of regularly checking that roof and look at maintenance plans, and so we don't get caught with the roof? I mean, that probably doesn't go in here, but maybe just something to talk about later. We need to do that for all of our facilities. Just have a general maintenance plan for
And we
every
would
city
still-
facility.
And we would still communicate that as well, because we really try to keep a pulse on everything that's happening in the building. So, I mean, if something was to not look like it was right, or a problem started happening, of course, we would make that contact. But yeah, to have other entities come in and look as well would be very welcome.
I don't think it's that we don't want to do it. I think we're just trying to be proactive
Yeah.
and plan.
Yeah.
Right.
How are we going to pay for this when it comes due?
One quick comment is, thank you to your association for all the work that you have put in. I believe it's close to $370-something thousand of your own funds that you've used on our building. I know you're occupying it, but it's still city building.
Yeah, it's an investment, and
Yeah.
we plan to do that and then some in the next couple of years.
What
so.
you guys do for the community, I think, is kind of a cornerstone or pillar. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point. We ready to vote? Thank you, Mr. Gressel. All those wishing to vote for motion, item number 2065, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1541, ordinance to amend ordinance number 1521 entitled Adopting the Annual Budget and Tax Rate for the Fiscal Year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending on June 30th, 2020. Let me get a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
On a motion by Ms. Blackwell, second by Dr. Blanks. This is the first of 3 readings as Ms. Wilson and her team put the final touches on the budget that just completed 3 weeks ago, okay? So this will be the first of 3 readings. And it will continue to be modified up until, I suspect, the very last minute. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of ordinance number 1541, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1542, an ordinance to set the salaries of the board, mayor, and aldermen effective upon the election of the new officials in the annual amounts of $15,000 for mayor and $7,500 for aldermen. Let me get a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. Blank, seconded by
I'll second.
second by Ms. Blackwell. Okay, so let me read part of the background that you see on page 81 for those in the audience and those that might be viewing. The mayor and aldermen currently receive an annual compensation at rates that have been established from time to time by ordinance, which is a method provided within Tullahoma Municipal Code. The salaries of mayor and aldermen have remained unchanged since at least 1993. The current annual salary for mayor is approximately $9,400 and $4,700 for each alderman. At the board's meeting on July 13th, Alderman Blanks requested that the board consider amending the annual salaries to $15,000 for mayor and $7,500 for each alderman. In accordance with state law, and this is important that everybody understand, that you cannot raise or lower an elected person's salary during their term of office. As a result, upon the board's approval, only those elected in August 2020 will receive raises impacting the current year budget, and all other aldermen's rates of compensation will remain unchanged until after the next 2 elections. The current budget fiscal impact for the 3 newly elected city officials represents approximately $11,200, an increase from $9,400 to $15,000 for mayor, and for the 2 aldermen, $4,700 to $7,500. Upon the election of the remaining 4 aldermen in future elections, the additional expenses will be anticipated in those future budgets. Since this was not budgeted or anticipated when establishing the current year budget, it will be offset with the budget reduction in the legislative account for fiscal year 2021. Necessary funds can be transferred from a combination of the following expense categories: general expense, travel training, professional services, legal services, and/or printing and publication to offset the additional cost in board salaries. All right, so that's a little of the background. We have a motion and a second. The floor is open for any discussion. Mr. Miller.
I'd like to just make a statement, if I could, on this issue. As a candidate for mayor, this has a direct impact perhaps on salary. And therefore, in consideration of that, I feel it's inappropriate that I'd enter into these discussions and as such would abstain from a vote.
Okay, thank you.
I would as well.
Now, Mr. Berry offers the same.
I'll discuss.
Okay.
So I appreciate Alderman Blanks for bringing this up. I do think there's, in looking at this, I had two different ways of thinking about this, and I'd like for us to discuss it. There's one way of looking at this as the way that I see it, as that we are in service to our community by us not really having. Let's keep it real, this is not a living wage. Most of us put in well more than 20 to 40 hours a week on this. I know I do. It's pennies on the dollar that we make. It kind of keeps us in some ways. This isn't a job. We do it, I think, because of service. I do have some concerns, though. And overall, I think I've mentioned this in the past to many humans. When we do look at our representatives, when we talk about wages like this, it limits who can actually run for office. When you see this, it's difficult for somebody to say, I'm going to be able to commit time to this when I have to work 2 jobs to feed my family. So it does become limiting in that way. But this type of a change isn't going to help that. So for me, that's where I'm just in this quandary of, I don't think it's, moving to a direction where it will enable more people to run and to be a part of this that would like to be.
Yeah, good point. Yep. Anyone else?
I'd just like to say, you read 1993 since we had an adjustment. We need to get with the 2000s here, boys and girls. I can understand Mr. Noyes and Mr. Berry not wanting to vote because it would affect them directly. It's not going to affect me. But, you could push this ball down the road forever if you wanted to. But, I thought I'd bring it up and just see where it goes. It'll eventually have to pass, maybe or maybe not. Whoever's voting here tonight, can maybe make a change for the future. That's all I have to say.
And if we don't vote on this tonight, and we wanted to say, if we were going to be voting on this any second, but if we don't pass this tonight, is it something where we can put together a discussion group or a study session to see how to, because in this here, it's saying it's going to come out of the legislative account because it's not budgeted for it, to see how we can budget for it for the next fiscal year.
What's the fiscal impact for this year,
What we were estimating was 11,200.
for this first year?
And that'd be the largest in the next 2 years. It will simply be 2 alternate salary increases, which would be $5,600 the next 2 years total.
Well, I'll go ahead and say I'm going to be voting no on this, and the reason why, and I do appreciate Jimmy's effort in trying to make this, because there is strain. There's not really financial strain so much, but it takes time away from your family. It takes time away from a job that you would have been committed to, and what Rupa said is correct. You spend time doing this job, but I came into it. I had no idea that there was a supplement, but and I appreciate that. I think that's a wonderful thank you, but I think it is not something I would do any better for another supplement.
Okay, actually, I've got no problem supporting this. I understand the time involved, and I'm still aggravated you didn't bring it up 3 years ago.
Well, it's an uphill battle to try to get this passed, and I get that. But, you know, we have to, I'd like to go back and look at the minutes of '93, of what, you know, what happened then. Were you around, do you remember?
That was when I was first elected, and so it might have been '83, since, I don't know when the last one was. That's just, that I have knowledge of.
Okay. So, you know, we can keep pushing this down the road, and that's okay. I'm not gonna be on this board forever. And that's why, you know, if it doesn't really affect the people that are up, you know, you never wanna be voting to raise your own salary, sort of. You know, that appears sort of hokey, but, you know, it'll be, if I decide to run again sometime in the future, then it'll affect me then, but right now, it doesn't, so, and that's just where I am.
Well, I appreciate you raising the elephant in the room. I think it's important that it was addressed. I think it's good.
Okay, other discussion? So what's going to happen is, we've got two that are going to abstain. It simply takes a majority of those present and voting to pass. So as long as it gets 3 affirmative votes, then it passes. If it receives fewer than 3 affirmative votes, then it does not pass. Everybody clear? All right, all those wishing to vote for ordinance number 1542, vote green. Opposed, vote red. All right, motion fails 3-2. You tried.
Win a few, lose a few.
All right, these next items 11 through 25, all resolutions authorizing appropriations for various entities around city government that were approved in the budget, okay? Now, for the 2 new ones, well, let me ask, is there any objection if I read simply the caption of each of these at one time rather than voting on 14 different times?
There's 2 that I would like to discuss.
Okay, so let's take out and vote separately. What are those 2, please?
Number 11, the fine art, and 25, the sports council.
All right, does anyone have any other request?
I will be abstaining from one of the other ones.
Okay, which one is that?
The daycare center, the number 15.
Okay. Any other request? Seeing none, so let's vote separately on item number 11, resolution number 1831, a resolution authorizing appropriations for financial aid to the Tullahoma Arts Center. Let me get a motion and a second, and then we'll discuss.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Blackwell, seconded by Dr. Blanks. All right, so we have properly before us a resolution authorizing appropriations for the financial aid to the Tullahoma Arts Center, which is found on page 84 of your agenda. So, Mr. Berry.
Just a couple things. First, I will preface with, I understand the benefits of some of the things that the Arts Center does. I have some concerns. I also know that even if we pass this, staff can still say, we're not going to fund until or fund certain things, and I realize that. I have some concerns with a letter that I received, as well as many others probably received, and with how kind of in the dark and unwilling to talk about the issues that are going inside the Fine Arts Center. And I would like us to, instead of saying no to this, I would like to make a motion to table this until the Fine Arts Center gives explanations and comes to the board and talks about the issues that, even if it's closed, but to table that until they come to us and say, this is what's going on, this is what's happening with all that money, this is what happened with the board, and those issues there, because I don't think that I'm not comfortable with due to taxpayer money for the nonprofits anyway, but I'm especially not comfortable when there's a whole cloud around what's going on there.
All right, the table of motion takes precedence, so what you, that's an appropriate motion. And so did you set a date certain, or did you just put the initiative on the Arts Center board to come to this
To
group? Is
come
that
to this
correct?
group,
Okay,
and-
so we've got an indefinite time period, which is fine. Okay. So let's, any discussion on the tabling motion?
Well, I will address this too, because I'm on the Arts Council, and there has been a change in executive director over at the Arts Center, and we've sort of been kept in the dark about what's going on, and usually by this time of year, they will have had a membership meeting or a board meeting or whatever. And I don't think that's happened or is happening or is going to happen. So we're sort of holding their feet to the fire here by withholding their appropriation until we know what's going on. And I think that's a proper way to handle this.
So my understanding is I served on their board.
Uh-huh.
The member meeting is typically in September of each year. I spoke when I received said letter. I did speak to the one board member who was still on there after, from when my tenure was on the board. And, they said that they were working towards an audit. And that, what was the other things? I had a lot of very specific questions with it because I was on the board before, and that they're planning on having a September meeting as much as possible. And I'd said that, because technically, the way the board, if I'm correct, of the Arts Center is set up, the way their bylaws are, the membership of the people who are on the board have to be voted on by their membership itself. And I think only one person that sits on the board right now has been voted on by the membership. So I think that's why they are it's incumbent upon them to have that September meeting. So I'm assuming it's going to happen.
Well, to keep their 501c3
Yes.
legal, they have to follow these steps.
Mhm.
And if that does not happen, then we'll just have to wait and see. So I would agree with my colleague Daniel that let's not give them any money yet until we see what they do. If come September they have a board meeting and they elect a proper board from the membership, then we can go. If they only have one sitting board member that was elected by the membership, that's a problem.
Is this something where so I think there's a motion to table. Is it, if that were to not pass, is there an ability to say, put stipulations within this resolution? With the stipulation of a membership meeting with the election of the board members and then a clean audit.
We'll first see if this table
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we can go on.
Got it.
I mean, I sense that, and I think Mr. Mary's motion is a good one. He's not canceling, he's just postponing the appropriation of money. So, any other discussion?
I have a
Sure.
hypothetical question for those who do serve on that board.
Now, wait a second, did you say I misunderstood, perhaps, do you currently serve on?
No.
Okay.
I
It's
do not
okay.
serve anymore.
Only Dr. Blanks does serve on the board. You do serve on the board.
No, on the Arts Center.
I'm on the Arts-
I'm sorry,
Arts
on the Arts
Council.
Council.
The hypothetical question is this: should the Arts Council be absolved?
Arts Center, you mean, or Arts
If
Council?
they should be absolved, if they have assets, how are those assets dispersed?
I can't answer the question. I think Mr. Worsham perhaps has done some research, or Ms. Moody, but I'm not putting you on the spot. I mean,
No, I didn't understand Mr. Nelson's
Commissioner
question.
Ellis?
So the question is, should the Arts Council be absolved,
Arts
say they don't continue to exist? How do they go about dissolving that entity, and what happens to their assets should they absolve?
I've reviewed their bylaws and also complies with state law. In the event that it were to be dissolved and their assets were to be contributed, it'd have to be to a similar 501c3 organization or to a governmental organization, such as the city, the county, the state, or whatever.
So the city could assume that if that was to come to fruition. I'm
Well,
hoping that,
if the membership or the board of directors chose to allow the city to assume that, yes, they would make the choice, we would not.
But this is separate from the Arts Council.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arts Council has nothing to do with this, although they should be involved in it as members and participate in the operations there.
Other discussion? All right, we have a motion on the table to a future date unknown until the Art Center makes a presentation. So all those in favor of the tabling?
do we need a second?
We got a,
We, so.
I'll second if we don't have
I
it.
thought-
We have a motion by Blackwell and Blanks to discuss it. And
Okay, and then-
then Barry
Table.
made a motion
To table.
to
To
table
table.
it, so we need a
and I'm
second.
sorry, I guess I just missed the
I'll
second.
second.
Ms. Dunn second.
Okay.
My fault. You'd think after 18 years, but anyway. All right, so we're on the tabling motion. All those in favor of the motion to table, vote green, opposed, vote red.
All right, let's try it one more time, everybody.
The ghost of the
There.
Arts Center.
Bertha Bailiff's here. Alderman Noes, can you vote? I cleared it, yeah. There we go. Thank you.
All right, the table motion passes. So it's incumbent upon the Arts Center to make a presentation at their request. Until then, that appropriation is being held.
Can we-
Okay.
Can we have somebody reach out to them?
Ms. Moody? Is that okay?
Yes, again, unfortunately, I think I'll respond to the attorney that sent the letter. I don't know who else to respond to.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Berry. All right, now, resolution number 1846, a resolution authorizing appropriations for the financial aid of Tullahoma Sports Council, Inc. Let me get a motion and a second to approve, and then I'll open the floor for any discussion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. Blank, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Mathis. Mr. Berry.
Again, I'll preface with, I am a huge fan of sports and youth sports, and you'll hear me make similarities and statements about my concern here. And I know that we do the annual Hall of Fame. I think we had the second one this year. And I know that there were some batting cages. I thought we were going to give it Johnson Lane as well, but I haven't seen them there. I saw the concrete pad. They've got a lot of money sitting in their bank account, over $100,000. I think it was 122, 127, somewhere around there. And I realized that a lot of that is not city money. It was given, but that's still a lot of money sitting there. And I'm not 100% sure, and I don't know if anybody is, what the plans are. Where that money's, why we're stockpiling money there, where we're gonna use that money. Are there, and so again, here I'd like to table this, because I don't believe they came the night that the nonprofits came either, in our first study session. So this is one that I would again like to table until that we have an opportunity to kind of talk to them and say, hey, what's your 3-year, 5-year, what are our goals here?
All right.
It's a lot of money.
I understand. Okay, again, that's an appropriate motion. The motion to table takes precedence. So is there any discussion on the tabling motion? I guess I have no problem with that either. I agree. I mean, we can ask Mr. Bratcher to come at his convenience to a future meeting and just explain what the plan is. Again, we're not canceling that money. We're simply postponing it until we get some questions answered.
Are we still allowed to ask questions at this time, because there's a motion, or no?
Oh, no,
Okay,
sure.
so what is can you give me a bit of the backstory of how the Sports Council was formed? And, because wasn't it initially formed as an initiative through the city? And can you kind of walk us through that? Walk me through that?
Well, I'll do my best. You know, it was similar to the Go Green and the Get Fit. It was probably about 3 years or so ago, I guess, that we introduced the Sports Council. The board of directors was approved by this board. My vision at that time was it was similar, I guess, to the Arts Council, in that I felt as though we needed a community-wide effort to promote sports.
Right.
And Parks and Rec was part of that. Different leagues were part of that, both youth and adult. And so I approached several people in the community that thought that was a good idea.
Right.
The trigger was I learned that I don't think they call it the Manchester Sports Council, but whatever the equivalent is in Manchester, that council was renting gymnasiums in Tullahoma because they were hosting events in Manchester that were so large they had to go to other communities. And I thought, good grief, we're so far behind in attracting regional and statewide sports competitions. And so that was the couple of different reasons for trying to put it all together. And to Jim Bratcher and the Sports Council's credit, I think they just got finished hosting and this is pre-COVID, but they've hosted it. I mean, they're trying to, it takes a while to host things, but they've already hosted, I think, a couple of different regional youth sports events. I've not been involved in any of that, but they're working to build up sports in Tullahoma, or at least, and they're also working on. They're trying to raise money, as Mr. Berry mentioned, about batting cages, and they've got other projects as well. But I don't know what specifically they are.
I don't know if they're tied in with the Eli Grove.
One of my concerns kind of stemmed, I've had 2 town hall things with the youth sports. And in all of them have, all the different, from swim to soccers to the different baseballs and the Little League. And when I asked the question, what is the Sports Council to them and what their involvement is, none of them were sure what it is and hadn't coordinated. So I think, in hearing what you said, I love that idea because we are kind of behind, and I think that there could be, I don't want to see these swallowed up in that, right? But kind of a coordinated effort. And so that's kind of what I would like to see is, hey, what do you see as this? What's your vision here with this, and where are you going?
And Mr. Brasher can answer those questions obviously much better than I can tonight. Yeah.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And I just need my memory refreshed here. Jimmy Stewart made some major donation to, was it this council that he,
Yes,
isn't
he and his
that
wife.
where the major amount of the money came from?
Yes, he and his wife made a $100,000 contribution prior to his death
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
And so that's where the money came from,
Right.
was the majority of the money.
And they might have held fundraisers. I don't have any
Yeah.
idea how else they've come up with money. I know that the city government has appropriated a fairly modest amount of money, but has some money each year since that time. Yeah. All right, we're on the table in motion. Any other discussion?
We need a second on that table motion.
Okay.
Ms. Dunn? Thank you.
I'm the parliamentarian
Sad,
tonight.
yeah. Really sad. Okay, we're on the table. No further discussion. All those in favor of the table in motion, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, seeing no other request, so now we're going to go through 12 through 24, and I'll just read the captions.
Except, I need to abstain from 15.
15, right. I was going to make it, yes, I made a note of that. Okay, so let's take up resolution number 1835, a resolution authorizing appropriation for financial aid to Tullahoma Daycare Center. Let me get a motion in a second.
Move to
Then I'll-
approve.
Sorry, Ms. Jones? And the second by
Second.
Dr. Blanks. Ms. Blackwell,
Oh, I just need to abstain. I'm the vice president of the board there.
okay?
If that's appropriate.
Yes, all those in favor of the resolution of 1835, vote green, opposed, vote red. Ms. Blackwell is abstaining. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, now I believe we're ready to deal with 12, 13, 14, and 16 through 24. If there's no objection, we'll do with all those at one time. Resolution number 1832, a resolution authorizing appropriations for financial aid of Tennessee's Backroads Heritage. Resolution number 1833, Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce. Resolution number 1834, Civil Air Patrol. Resolution number 1836, Coffee County Health Department, Tullahoma Health Center. Resolution number 1837, Historic Preservation Society. 1838, Hands-On Science Center. Resolution number 1840, Coffee County Lanham Library. 1841, South Central Human Resource Agency. 1842, Skills Development Center. 1843, South Jackson Civic Center. 1844, Coffee County Senior Citizens Tullahoma Center. And 1845, Trinity Care Center. Is there a motion to approve these resolutions as read by the captions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Dr. Blank, second by Ms. Blackwell. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolutions as read, vote green, opposed, vote. Wait a second, what did I say? All those in favor, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Do one of those green lights look weak to you?
Which one, who are you calling?
Alderman Blank says it does.
Okay, that's what I thought. I don't have my glasses on.
Put them on.
Don't be so false.
Please.
Just because I forget seconds every now and then. Okay, 1847, approval of resolution to approve an Urban Development Block Action Grant, UDAG, loan in the amount of $200,000 for London's Bar LLC.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Berry, seconded by
Me.
Ms. Blackwell. Any discussion?
I'm just excited about Wall Street. It's just lots of, yeah.
What's the $200,000 for? Do we know?
Ms. Moody?
Well, my understanding is that it's for the building he purchased immediately next to London's to begin renovating it and possibly for a brewery, a microbrewery. And then also that some of the funds would be used for the green space.
The building back towards,
Used to be the old Red Hat.
yeah, Red Hat. Is that upstairs or is there specific storefront?
It's a whole.
It's the whole building, upstairs and downstairs.
They hope to employ more people too, I hope.
They plan to employ a lot more people.
Okay. That's one thing, the UDAG grant is geared towards employing more people.
Yes. Yes, I think it would be treated as a separate restaurant. Is that his intent, that it'd be its own identity?
I don't know if we will have it separate or together. He's anticipating about 25 more jobs.
Okay,
That's
good.
great. Yeah.
Okay, anticipating about 25 new jobs.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on Resolution 1847. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, vote green, opposed, vote red. All right, motion passes, it looks like about 6.5.
Got the jokes today.
Guess we're gonna make that 7.
Okay. 7 for the record.
Technically,
Resolution number 1839, a resolution to support amendment of the city charter to establish 4-year terms of elected office for the mayor and board of mayor and aldermen, and to change the date of elections for the same to the general election cycle. All right, once again, let me get a motion and a second. I suspect there'll be quite a bit of discussion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Miller, second by Dr. Blacks. So, let me just read a portion of this. I thought I'd underline some things, but, so, I guess this only speaks to the mayor and alderman. But the last time you and I spoke, there was still a question outstanding on the city judge and board of education. So how does this, as presented tonight, resolve that part of it?
This resolution tonight does not resolve our issue of having some city-only elections. And so our municipal judge, for example, is on an 8-year term, but as it currently falls, it falls on an odd year. And so in that odd year, we would have to pay for that election with only that city judge position on it. The same is true of the city school board. They are on 4-year terms, which is good, but they're on a staggered such that they have elections every year. We would need their cycles to be staggered only on even years to move them to the general election cycle. So what we found, and MTAS's attorney, Alicia Hodge, did the research for us, the authority to move the city judge elections, we don't have it. And we don't have the authority in state law to move the city school board. Both of those election cycles in terms of office are established in state law, and we're just following the state law. Now, a few years ago, the state passed a bill that is what has enabled it to be easier for us to move to the general election cycle. If it were not for your 3-year terms of office, we could have simply moved to the general election cycle by resolution. The reason we're having to get a charter amendment is to move you to a 4-year term of office so you can fall on those even years. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, to me, this is a first step, moving what you're authorized to move, which is our municipal elections, to the general election cycle, and putting you on even number terms, which helps you fall on even years. But the next thing we need, and I did talk to Rush Bricken about this today and reminded him, the next thing we'll need is a piece of legislation that will give, not just us, but this will help all cities with municipal judges and municipal school boards to move them also to the general election cycle. So I would be surprised if this would have any controversy whatsoever, seeing as TASER, you guys are familiar with TASER, they've studied this issue multiple times. The General Assembly has actually asked TASER to study whether they should make moving to the general election cycle mandatory. So I'm sure that they will support a piece of legislation to help the municipal judges and school boards move.
I mean, it's fine to approve this tonight, but it doesn't resolve what Mr. Noah's was been after for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Because we're still, it almost looks to me like we just need to postpone this until we see if the General Assembly will approve.
Well, if I can add, so the two things I was thinking about, I wanted to honor the request that I had heard from this board while we still have the members that requested it of me. So I know every single one of you have, in individual conversations with me, said that this is in your top 3 priorities for your term of office. So I wanted to make sure that it was brought to you. And then the other thing is, an item like this, and Mayor Curley, you know this, it won't be carried until January to the legislature. But they do, their staff members need some time to get it in the appropriate form. So we do need to be sure that we pass it before the end of the calendar year, so they have plenty of time to get it into the wording and structure needed for the General Assembly.
Okay, so what's the board's prerogative? Do you want to go ahead and vote as part of it tonight, or do you want to wait until we see?
Well, I see it, Mayor, as being the first step. I see it as being proactive in getting this moved forward. And then so much easier to just do the last piece that you're talking about, Assembly's approval. So let's be proactive and get this thing moving. We've waited too long.
If I may, I'd like to amend where it says that the vote would be in November.
Yes.
To the, is it Thursday? Is it the first Thursday in August? Is that what we?
Second Thursday in
Sec-
August usually, isn't it?
First.
First Thursday in
First
August,
Thursday,
yeah.
okay, first Thursday in August rather than the November. We can do that.
So who made the motion? You should go through with that, an amendment to it, but who made the motion?
Right.
No, it's-
Made the motion.
Are you okay with changing it from November to August?
I'd like to discuss
Well, we're
that.
trying to get all the elections moved to November.
But
Well,
there
we'll
has to
have
be
an August
primary
primary
anyway.
anyway, right?
We're
Yes.
trying to get the elections synced up with general elections so that we're not paying for city-only elections. So we're not bearing all of the cost of the election. And you can move to either the August or November cycle. Yes, the MTAP drafted this for us, and I honestly don't remember having that conversation with them about whether we preferred August or November, so I think they put November, but we certainly could change it to August and still accomplish what we're
Because
trying
there's always elections in August, right?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think there is something with voters fatigue, where you're
Yes.
just like, who is that guy? Who am I supposed to be voting for? And then if you've got all that in November, I think that can be,
Does she need a second so we can discuss it?
oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a second to her motion to amend.
Okay. What I was trying to do is not leave out that step. I was just going to check and see if the makers of the motion would concur, but, okay, Mr. Barrett.
I think a couple, so regardless, and I heard this, the point of being overwhelmed with the number of things on the ballot. You're gonna have the same number of things on the ballot in August as you are in November. You still, take this election for example, if you're on the Republican ballot, you're a Democrat ballot, you're still gonna have state rep, state senate, US Senate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The number doesn't change, but there's higher voter turnout in November, statistically. If you go back there and you look at our data, the voter turnout is always higher in November. And the name of the game, right, is to get more people out to vote.
I think, though, there's something to be said about local elections in August, bringing out more voters. I mean, look at what we're seeing right now with our local elections. I personally think because we have such an engaged electorate in our local office, right, in our local elections right now, we are seeing a lot higher voter turnout. I think I could wish I'd done some data research before that. So I think that's why, for me, this, I think, could increase turnout in the August elections to keep people engaged. The other concern for me, which is why I'm glad I was seconding this, is that it will then take 3 months off of the extension for each of these offices. And I think that's important for us because we are extending the length of our term. And I think for me, I think I would feel uncomfortable extending it any more than I needed to.
It only extends for one, that extra 3 months for one, right? It would only remove the extension for one. Everybody else still gets extended, or no?
No, I mean, it will take 3 months off of everybody because everyone would go to August rather than to November. Right, so those 15-month extensions would go to 12-month extensions. Those 3-month extensions would be 0 months extension. You know what I mean? Like
So 15 months, 12 months instead of 15
yeah,
months.
or for some of them,
Right.
for this, like Exhibit A, yeah, so it would essentially take, if you looked at Exhibit A, it would make all those 12 months, and then those last 3 would not be technically extended. So for me, I think it's just,
I would say, my opinion is, instead of banking on, let's try to grow voter turnout in August, historically, it hasn't been. This year, it has been, but we don't know whether it's because they're excited, or what I've heard is there's a lot of elderly people who've been at home, and this is a great way for them to get out. And so instead of banking on, hey, let's try to build up our August elections, if the name of the game, and we're trying to get more people to vote and make it more accessible for people, with more people already doing it in November, then that would make sense.
Let me give you my 2 cents on it, since I've been up here as long as anybody else. Every other time I've run for alderman, it's usually been, we've had either a governor or state rep or federal office running too. That will push the electorate to August. I have won my seat with as few as 800 votes, and I have won it with a big electorate at 3,300. So, you're going to get the push this time because we have more, we have a presidential election, we're filling a senatorial seat, so that's going to push people out. Next year, next August, because this is not going to go through to where we can change what we're doing already, will be 2 alderman seats up, and there will not be 1,000 people that come out to vote. Whether you push it, and if you push it to November, it's still going to be 1,000. It depends on what you're
Well,
running.
November, shouldn't there be other?
There
is
won't be
nothing
any
in
big,
November?
there won't be any
Not in
big stuff.
2021.
Yeah. It depends on what's up for grabs is how you get people out, not the time, August or November. If it was me, I'd leave it in August. I don't want to be knocking doors in October.
You weren't pregnant knocking doors.
I would rather knock doors in October.
Well,
But if that's how you started to think about it, I was thinking there
drags
was.
it out, who in this day here is sick of watching what's on TV? I don't even watch what's on TV, or, you're sick of it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want any of y'all, quit advertising, I'm sick of it.
There's also something to say about the tradition of leaving it in August. I don't think it's worth anything or not, but that is the long-term tradition.
I agree, you sold me.
Well, if you look, it's up, down, if you're running for it was a presidential election, you're gonna get people out.
I don't know why I was thinking there was a federal election or state next November, it's not. It will be huge next year because there's like 36 county offices up. Next year will be huge, or 2022, sorry.
Okay, we're on Mr. Young's motion to move wherever it appears in November to move it to August. Okay, that's a proper second. Any other discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Young. All right, we're back on the motion as amended. Is there any further discussion?
Just thank you to Jennifer, putting this together.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as amended as presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, Ms. Blackwell, we're on to your additional item regarding cats. I'm smiling, you can't see that.
What's funny is I'm terrified of cats.
The play or the animal?
No.
All right, so the floor is open for you to make a motion.
Is that how I need to make a motion?
Yes.
So I'm making a motion to allocate $2,500 to the Coffee County Humane Society from the $450,000 that the state gave us. That's my motion.
Second.
What's the status of that money, Ms. Moody?
We've received it.
Okay.
We cashed it as quickly as we could.
Can I amend that? I would like to see that $2,500 go to them, but find it from somewhere else until we sat down and talked about that $450,000. I mean, that would rather come out of the sports council's budget, honestly. Or if I know we can't do that right now.
Careful what you say.
But I would like to amend it and say, let's do it, but let's find somewhere else or halt it until we've had time to talk about that $450,000 and what we plan to
Is-
do
but-
with that money.
Is there a place that we should be, I guess this is a question more for.
I'm sorry, did we get a second on her motion?
Blanks.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So now we're in discussion,
Yeah.
and then he's made a,
Well,
Well,
let's
it-
discuss it first, I won't amend.
Yeah.
I would like to see somewhere else. Cedar Lane costs $450,000 approximately, and I would love to see Cedar Lane done. That would be a huge impact on the community.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's amazing that, it's kind of like it all just came together, right?
but does this $2,500 coming from this fund, is that gonna be detrimental to us being able to use 447,500?
So,
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, but I would think, let's not touch that until we've talked about
So
it.
essentially
But
what we-
just find somewhere else to pull it
I
from.
think we would have to do a budget amendment to do that, if I'm correct, or I could be wrong. Mrs. Moody could probably tell me more.
so do you have a suggestion as to where the money comes from? Of course, Dr. Blank says we can take it out of the legislative account, nothing changes.
I would actually love to give him more money, honestly.
You're very excited, I apologize.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, I would love to find that more money, because I would have $200 is really good.
It usually does.
The mayor's
Kind of, yeah.
So,
Okay, just a second. Do you have a suggestion as to where the money?
We could take it from legislative general expense.
How much money was in that account?
A little less than 18,000.
Well, let's take it from there.
Okay, a question about the Culpeper County Humane Society. My experience was that they would not take the cat that I tried to give them. They would not do anything with the cat. They would not touch the cat. So what are they going to do with the money that we give them?
I'm
You're creating a foster home
They
at
do
your
have a
house.
spay and neuter program that they said, and it costs $50 per cat is what unless
They do
they're
like a
pregnant.
Catch and release also.
Yes, and they do catch and release as well. So when I talked with Hazel, and I think she came and actually presented, she was one of the nonprofits who came and actually spoke to our board that one time. And so she said, yes, that they could absolutely utilize that in ways to deal with the feral cat population. She said that typically, because I called her and I said, I want to give you a heads up that I'm going to be doing this here. Actually, and I have numbers for you if you'd like about what that would be. Give me a second.
Maybe it was a Tullahoma cat.
Okay, I have it
It didn't
somewhere.
have a tag on it.
So a couple things about this is that they are not, so typically they usually get some community foundation grants to offset these costs for spay and neuter. Because the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee is no longer doing, I forget the word, it's a specific type of grants, they are losing significant funding to be able to do things that they normally would be able to do. So this is why she said that, yeah, they could absolutely use this for the spay and neuter issues.
Can we say, we'll give you the money, but it needs to be used for cats coming from Tullahoma? And it has to be used to help.
Is that
Oh,
something?
because that's what the problem we're trying to solve is cats. And are we able to say, great, we're good with it as long as you earmark this and Mr. Nose gets another stray?
You know, I think that for,
It'll use to pay for that.
I know, I mean, I think that I don't know. I mean, that's a question we can ask for the nonprofit if we wanted to. I don't know how to do that motion-wise.
I'll make a motion that we postpone this rather than table until the next meeting so that we have time to ask questions.
Second.
We have
I want to give them the money, but I just want to make sure it's going to cats.
Do you want to go?
But, Ray said he took a cat up there and
Yeah,
they went
I hear
something
you.
else. So,
I hear you.
Why?
Yeah.
Were they out of money? Or was it a Tullahoma
They
cat
just
they didn't like?
they just did the cats. Didn't touch it.
They couldn't do cats.
Now, if I remember Robert's rules correctly, postpone means let's postpone it till the next meeting.
You can postpone it to a date certain and the next meeting, whatever you want to do.
Let's postpone, I'll make a motion that we postpone this until the next meeting.
Sorry, I'm just thinking we should do it meow. I'm
Ah.
sorry. Oh, God. Okay, I was holding on to that one. I'm sorry. Okay.
Until the next meeting, is that what it is?
Until the next meeting.
And
Okay, wait,
And I
no,
second it.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
All right, well, Ms. Blackwell, how's that, I mean, you wanted to deal with this tonight, are you okay with postponing it?
I mean, they've got a second, so I'm okay with that. You know, I'm gonna call Hazel and tell her to give everyone a call.
So you're gonna withdraw your motion?
Is that what I have to do, or?
Do you got to go on post? I think
Or I think
the
you have to vote
postpone
on the
takes
first
precedence.
motion that was.
Well, either way, I mean, let's just go ahead and vote to postpone it until the next meeting.
And then it'll be on the agenda.
Yeah,
There
sure.
we go.
All right, all those in favor of the postponing the, Ms. Blackwell's motion until the next meeting, green opposed, so voted. I think there's a red one up there, isn't there?
Yes.
6-1. Okay, and so are you gonna be a committee of one to try to get some answers to that?
For the animals, yeah, for the cats, yes, I will.
Can I get her, can you send her that number?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Okay, Ms. Moody, are you aware of any other business? All right, without objection, we are adjourned. We're going to the beer board portion of the agenda. We have one item, the consent agenda of 20-BB20. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved, please.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Black, second by Ms. Blackwell. All those in favor of the consent agenda is presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Good meeting, thanks everyone. We will see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
To me, but a tower of a strength is a something I'll never be.